This video is part of the Weed Warriors Removing Invasive Plants to Benefit Native Plants and Pollinators video series. This video series is funded by Legacy Partners in Environmental Education.
Welcome to the University of Alabama Arboretum. My name is Monica Watkins, and I'm the Arboretum Director. The Arboretum is a 60-acre outdoor facility. We have 2.5 miles of forested trails and gardens, including a wildflower garden and community vegetable garden. The Arboretum was established in 1958 and is a part of the Department of Biological Sciences in the College of Arts and Sciences. We coordinate with UA museums for many of our education and outreach programs. I hope you enjoy this virtual visit and can come visit us in person soon.
One of the things you need to be able to know to remove invasive plants is how to identify plants. What plant is it that I'm looking at? Am I looking at a plant that's invasive? Am I looking at a plant that's native? The way to learn this is to get a guide and start learning the different types of plants and their plant characteristics. You might want to get a guide for trees, a guide for wildflowers, and you'll want to learn how to read a key. And the key is based on different characteristics. Things like, is it a woody plant? Is it a vine? Is it flowering? And you need to learn the different types of leaves, the shapes of leaves. Is the leaf toothed? Does it have a smooth margin on it? You need to learn the different types of flowers, and you'll learn things like plant families. This takes a lot of practice. However, some of the invasive plants that are in our forests, they stick out like a sore thumb, and you'll be able to identify them easily. And we're going to talk about how to identify two types of invasive plants. One is Chinese privet, and the other is English ivy. Chinese privet is common in Alabama, and it invades areas that are wet. Its berries are spread by birds, and it becomes quite thick in some places, and I will show you an example of that later in this video. Basic way to identify Chinese privet is to look at the leaves on the stem. Larger, these will be the branches on a large shrub. And these leaves come in pairs. So you can see they are across from each other in pairs. The leaf margin, so the edge of the leaf, is smooth. And the leaves are fairly glossy, but somewhat thin. Chinese privet is most frequently confused with another plant which is native, Yaupon holly. I happen to have some Yaupon holly growing right next to my Chinese privet. This is also common at the Arboretum, so we have both plants. The Yaupon holly, instead of having the leaves across from each other on the stems, they alternate pairs around the stem. So you can see they don't come straight across from each other. Also, the margin, so the edge of the leaf of the Yaupon holly, is not smooth. It is toothed. This area is next to the stream at the Arboretum. You can see behind me large shrubs of Chinese privet. Beside me is a pile of stems from the last time we were able to remove a significant amount of the Chinese privet. Chinese privet can get to over 10 feet tall, and it makes flowers in the summer, and then in the fall they're small black berries that are eaten by birds, and the birds in their poop will spread the berries of the Chinese privet. This area of the Arboretum is overgrown with large Chinese privet shrubs that have choked out other vegetation. There's really not anything growing under them. Even in the summertime, this area really doesn't have much growing, and that's a problem for our native plants and pollinators, which are usually very diverse under the forest floor. There are some large trees in this area, but we're missing that structure of the forest that would have native shrubs and native flowering plants, wildflowers. You'll notice that behind this area of the Arboretum is the railroad track, which runs all along the edge of the property. Railroad, right-of-way, as well as roads are real problem areas for invasive species because they can invade easily along the edge of your property. Behind me is a large area of English ivy. This ivy was planted at the Arboretum originally to enhance the aesthetics of the garden area. Unfortunately, English ivy often gets out of control. It can grow up on trees and cover the forest floor, strangling out any of the native plants that support our pollinators. I'm going to show you now what the English ivy looks like. Here's a closer look at English ivy growing on the ground. This time of year, there are many leaves with it. You can see the leaves have a characteristic shape. It has a smooth margin with a point and two lobes on either side of the point, and the leaf is attached to the stem like so. If you look closely here, there are roots on this stem, and these stems run along the ground. And the English ivy is a vine. It can vine along the ground, and then it can vine up the trees. In this area, we have an example of large Chinese privet shrubs with English ivy growing underneath them.
Thank you for watching this first video in our series, Weed Warriors, Removing Invasive Plants to Promote Native Plants and Pollinators, which is funded by Legacy Partners in Environmental Education. In our next two videos, we'll be demonstrating how to remove Chinese privet and English ivy.